Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you have been stumped about how to get clients using Instagram, I want to invite you to my live workshop on Thursday, September 4th at 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific, where we're going to be covering how you can use Instagram and not just have to post all the time, but still be able to get clients using this platform. I personally do not have a ton of likes and comments on my posts on Instagram. I used to, but what I have found is that has not been required to still book clients on this platform. And I'm going to be sharing with you what I figured out and what I recommend in 2025 if you want to really use this platform to attract more clients, market your business, grow your audience. So I cannot wait to share this with you. Come live. And if you want to come live, what you need to do is go to HaileyRowe.com and sign up for my email list. You can do that by either signing up for my free niche marketing training that's on my homepage or one of my other freebies. But basically, you got to get on the email list to get the Zoom link. If you need the Zoom link or you're having trouble, just message me on Instagram at Hailey_Rowe. And I cannot wait to see you there.
Hippie, and she teaches coaches to conquer their finances and own their worth so they can be fully supported by the work that they love. Scarlett harnessed the power of money to break free from her workaholic career path and pursue her dreams. She uses a combination of tangible money management strategies as well as a variety of coaching techniques to help her clients transform their mindset and their relationship to money, allowing them to strategically achieve their goals and live their best lives. So I love that because money is a big part of daily life and your business and how you're going to approach sales and marketing. So tell me a little bit about what was your career before this that you were so burnt out in, and how did you transition? Tell me kind of that journey.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to dive in. So previously, I actually worked in the restaurant industry for many years. So I started in the restaurants when I was 16 years old as just like a hostess while obviously going to high school. And then by the time I was 18 years old, I started managing restaurants. And then at the same time, while I was managing restaurants with crazy hours, late nights, working until 2, 3, 4 a.m. every single weekend, like cramming 30 hours of work into the weekends, wearing 4-inch heels for 8 hours at a time, like full face makeup. While doing that, I was also getting my bachelor's in business management, accounting, and finance. So I was in this kind of draining, exhausting work environment where I was also very much a type A, high achiever, perfectionist. I was like the strict manager who was kind of like compensating for my age. Because I was so young, I had to like be really on top of it and be really a perfectionist. And especially like working somewhere that was on a busy city street in the middle of the night and like dealing with a bunch of drunk people and having to call the cops. Like I really had to maintain my business persona, my serious persona. And yeah, I was just really a totally different person than I am today. I basically owned more blazers than I did pairs of jeans back in the day when I was the like type A high achiever perfectionist.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So what was the point where you were like, okay, I'm going to leave the restaurant industry and go into money stuff? Tell me that.
So it really was a slow transition. When I was still finishing up my last year of college, I started working for a company. It's a small business called Richer Than You Think. And it's a woman who helps people manage their personal finances and do budgeting. And so even though I had my degree in finance and accounting, I still hadn't really learned anything about personal finance. And so this gave me the other side of the coin of how do you actually manage your money as an individual, which was totally new information, even though I had a bachelor's in money, which was crazy. And so even though I had this degree, even though I had this experience, I was still making good money in the restaurant industry. But eventually I realized that like my mind and my body was really it was taking a toll on me. I was, even though like checking all these boxes on paper, I was doing things very successfully. I was smart with my money. I had money saved up. I was paying for college out of pocket. I had 0 student loans. I had the fancy job title. I was very successful, had 0 credit card debt. Even though I was checking all these success boxes, I was unfulfilled. I was depressed. I was suicidal, and I was like covered in head to toe eczema, had constant migraines. Like basically my body was screaming at me, telling me that something needed to change. Just being in this environment and even being in a toxic relationship too at the time, like I didn't realize that something was wrong until I kind of like smacked rock bottom really hard and realized like, wow, I just cannot continue to keep living this way. And that's when there was a slow fade out of the restaurant industry where I transitioned from one location to another. I gave up some of my managing responsibilities and started doing more like serving. And then eventually it was very challenging and took me a while. I did fade that off. And then starting my business happened seemingly out of the blue a couple months later. I was not planning on starting my business when I first started it. I had graduated with my bachelor's degree, and then about 1 month later, I got my first life coaching certification just because I thought it would be a good skill to have. I thought it would be useful. But then after completing that certification, I realized like, oh, wow, this is just what I'm going to do now. And that's when I first started my life coaching business.
Wow, that is so cool. And I have a similar path where I got my certification. I got one, and then I was like, oh, I need to learn more about all this. And then I got some more and all the things. And coaching is so powerful. And I'm sure, too, when you did your life coaching certification, it changed you personally. You were probably your first client, and you were like, look, I am hitting this rock bottom. Something needs to change in my life. You started taking steps, and look at you now. So tell me a little bit, because we talk about marketing and sales on this podcast, but what a lot of people, before they even get into that, they really struggle with like thinking, well, I feel bad charging people, or I'm just not a natural born salesperson, or I really want to avoid being salesy or pushy. And they have these beliefs about how sales and marketing has to be, how it has to be to make money in your business. So what would be somebody's first step to kind of starting to shift that belief of like, sales is bad, money might be bad, or I don't want to overcharge, or, that kind of limiting beliefs when it comes to money?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And this is honestly why I love doing the work that I do as a money and abundance coach, especially helping entrepreneurs, is because your relationship with money, what you think about money, how you use money, how you're strategic and intentional with money plays a huge role in your business. And so many people are focused only on the like strategy side of business. Like, I'm going to implement the strategy and do all the things, and that will make me successful. And yes, those skills are important. And yes, you do need to implement the business strategies in order to make money. But at the same time, I've learned the hard way that you can do all the things. And yet, if you have a scarce-based relationship with money, or if you're stressed about money and you bring that into your business, it's going to hinder the ability for those strategies to actually work. And so some of the biggest challenges that I see people facing is they're operating their business from a place of scarcity, lack, and not enoughness, and also constantly feeling stressed about money. If you're stressed about money and you're trying desperately to make money in your business, you're bringing that desperation into your sales calls, into your marketing, into the way that you show up. And also, your relationship with money, your beliefs about money, is also a direct reflection of your relationship to yourself. So if you believe there's not enough money to go around, that you're not doing enough, that you're not working hard enough, often that means that you have these not enough thoughts about yourself. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm a bad person for wanting money, right? And that ties into your confidence. It ties into your ability to show up and really serve at the highest level. It impacts your ability to believe in yourself and speak confidently about the work that you do. And so I found time and time again that when you heal your money mindset, you're also doing a lot of deep personal growth and development around your confidence in yourself. And when you do that, and when you're able to step into another level of confidence, step into another level of abundance, and bring that mindset and that money strategy into your business, it helps amplify all the work you're already doing. It helps you get so much further.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and we were just talking about on your podcast how, like, if you go into things graspy, it doesn't come across as well, as well. But for somebody who maybe is in a situation, like, how do they separate? Yes, I have financial stress, and yes, I have a business, and not like mix the two. What would you say are some mindset shifts they can make to, yes, even though we're not going to ignore that maybe they have some financial debt or something that, they really do need to make a certain amount of income to pay certain expenses. But how do they separate the two and not let that leak into their business and make them desperate in their business?
I think what happens very often is that people have a very emotional relationship with money, where you can't see your money clearly, where you don't really know what's happening with your money, and you're making your money mean a lot of things about you. And so most people who have money stress have it because they don't actually know what's happening with your money. So when you learn to actually manage and track your money and see your money clearly, it usually eliminates about 70% of the money stress, because now you can actually see what's happening. And even if the situation isn't where you want it to be, now you can do something about it instead of just having it be this looming thing that's always like weighing on your shoulders, and you're like always worrying about it no matter how much money you make, no matter how hard you work or what you do. Now you can see clearly, oh, this is the reality. This is actually exactly how much more I need to make in order to make ends meet. Or sometimes people find out, oh, actually, I'm fine. I don't know why I'm sitting here worrying so much about money when really all my basic needs are met, and everything at this point is just like a goal, a desire, or extra. So that's one thing. It's actually a tangible component of learning to see your money clearly, track and manage your money. But I find that ties into your mindset big time, because if you're not seeing your money clearly, it's impacting your money, and you're developing a very strong emotional tie to your money. And then the second piece is separating the money situation from you. And I think a lot of people will think like, oh, well, now I'm a bad person, or I'm a failure, or I like suck at life because I have debt, or because I feel stressed about money, or because I'm not landing as many sales as I expected in my business. But starting to see the money situation objectively and remove that from your self-worth and who you are as a person and what you believe in and the kind of life that you're living. And again, I think one way to do this is by learning to actually see your money clearly on paper so you can separate it from you, and then also recognizing the stories that you have around money that you just learned growing up about you not being worthy and deserving, about there not being enough money to go around, about money being bad or wrong. If you're able to uncover like, oh, these are things that I learned about money and about myself and about the world, but they might not be inherently true. And starting to recognize that so that you can unwind those patterns and shift into more of an abundance-based mindset, no matter how much money you actually have coming in.
I love it. Okay. So if somebody has the thought, and I think this one you brought up, which is, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough. And so therefore they also see their money as it's not enough. What would be some ways you'd start to shift them into abundance mindset specifically with that one?
Yes. So one is recognizing like, what is this based off of? Right? There's this arbitrary idea of not enoughness where you might think like, I just need to cross this finish line or make this amount of money or do this enough work, right? Or like check these boxes, reach this goal, and then finally I will have been enough. It will feel like enough. I will feel satisfied, but that doesn't really happen. I've learned that in my own life time and time again. I'm like chasing this finish line, and the finish line just keeps moving. So one is recognizing, like, how can you actually identify this idea of enoughness that you're trying to reach? And how can you take it from this abstract thing that feels off in the distance, and how can you bring it into the present moment? Which I think even that will play a really huge role, to see like, oh, I think that enough means 6 figures, or I think that enough is just an arbitrary idea of more. But why? Like, why is this enough to you? What is that based off of? Is it based off of what you hear from other people in the industry? Is it based off of what you learned growing up? Is it, right? Where are you getting this idea of success and enoughness from? And is that accurate? Is that reality? So that's one piece. And then the other piece is similar to what we already talked about, is getting your money on paper. Because one of the biggest reasons why people feel like they don't have enough no matter what they do or how hard they work is because they can't see how much they're actually making or where their money is going. And when you can't see it clearly, that's when so much of it starts to slip through the cracks, which leaves you feeling stressed about it. It leaves you feeling like no matter how much money I make, at the end of the month, it's always gone. It's because you're being unaware, unconscious, and unintentional about what is actually happening with your money. The other thing that does is now you don't have an accurate picture of how much you actually need in order to live your life, like live a foundational basic life, or even live your best life. Like, your best life has a number attached to it, and it might not be $1 million. It might be less. You might not have to be a crazy rich person in order to live the life you want to live. In fact, there might be a way for you to do everything you want to do starting right now with the money you have. You just haven't attached that reality to a specific number. And I think that makes a huge difference for my clients.
Yes. Okay. So totally agree on tracking. I think this theme here is when you actually track and can see things on paper, it's so powerful. And I'm a big fan just in business too, like tracking how many offers are you making, and tracking, like I track my whole life, really, honestly. I have a timer, and I'm a little type A, obviously, if you can't tell, but I have a timer going right now, timing that we're doing a podcast, because at the end of the week, I like to see my report and see where was I putting my time? Do I like that? Do I not like that? Do I want to change things? So the more you track, I think just the more like you can look at things as data and not be like, I'm a terrible person because some vague reason that you came up with just now, but you haven't, looked at your numbers and all of that. So one of the other things, though, that you said was how if you feel like I kind of want to, like you make things mean things, right? Like we make money mean a certain thing about us. And you're saying you got to kind of separate that and detach that. And I think it's the same thing when we come in our business and we attach if people like our business with if they like us or not. And so we start taking things personally in our marketing, and we're afraid of rejection because it hurts so bad because it means they don't like us instead of they don't like the offer or they don't like the business. So, one of the other things you mentioned in your bio is helping people see their worth. And I do not believe that people should, I don't like that saying like charge what you're worth, because you're worth, there's not a number on it, right? Like charge what your offer and the service and the outcome of the offer is worth. But how can somebody who is trying to do that, but they don't see themselves as enough and they're doubting themselves, how does somebody come to charging, not undercharging all the time? Because that is something I see too, is like, I just wanted to make the sale and I thought that this was the price and so I charged it. And now, I make like $10 in my business. So how can somebody charge what their offer is worth and separate their self-worth? Any thoughts on that whole topic?
Yeah, this is an important question because I think there's two things happening here. One is really boosting that self-confidence, that self-trust, that self-love, that self-confidence. And again, we're always making meaning about things. We're always creating stories throughout our entire life about ourselves. And we can make things that have nothing to do with us mean things about us. For example, when you were a child and your family couldn't afford the expensive jeans that everybody was wearing, you could turn that into I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, or money's hard, right? And you can make this mean a lot of things about you. And even though it can just be one small moment that seems insignificant, that can bleed into your business and it can bleed into your future, and it can affect your ability to actually attract and receive and bring money into your life. So one is recognizing the patterning that has already been created, the story that has already been created around your self-worth, around your deservingness, and the way that money and your price point ties into that. The other thing that I like to talk to my clients about is how you might think that your price point is a bad thing. Oh, I'm taking money from somebody. It's wrong for me to charge. The lower the price point, the better, because then people are going to say yes. And also, I know I can deliver at that rate. If I charge too much, people won't say yes to me because my price point is bad. Charging more is wrong. But I love to show my clients that your price point is actually part of the value that you provide, because your price point gives the other person, your client, the opportunity to commit to something that they weren't able to commit to before. It gives them the opportunity to say yes to a new opportunity, to go all into it. Because where you put your money is also where you put your time and energy, right? Whoever has ever invested in a very affordable gym membership, where they're $1 down or something, and then you go for the first week and then you just stop going and you're oh, whatever, it's just a couple bucks a month. It hardly even matters to me at all. And so you don't end up actually committing to going to the gym. You don't end up spending time there. Versus if you got $100 gym membership or yoga studio monthly membership, something like that, you're going to go and make sure you get your money's worth. You're going to commit to it. You're going to show up to it because you made a financial investment. And because the money went into it, now the time and energy is also going into it. And so when it comes to pricing your offer and your service, you're giving that other person, the client, the opportunity to commit to themselves and actually get the results. That's the problem with free stuff, right? Free stuff can be great, but the likelihood that someone's going to follow through all the way and get the big, powerful transformation is limited because they don't have the financial investment, and therefore they don't have the time and the energy investment. So instead of seeing your price as something that's wrong or bad or something that you shouldn't be charging, recognizing that you're actually providing more value by giving the client an opportunity to commit fully to your services and the value of your work.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great perspective shift. And even it's the client's first step in transforming, because they become a new person from that very moment of putting the dollars into that. They're oh my gosh, this is a whole new identity because I am stepping up, I'm leveling up, I'm showing I care about this, I'm showing I'm committed. And one of the other things I hear is, well, I just want to be affordable. And it's so funny when I hear that, because it's well, what is affordable? Affordable for one person is something totally different from another person. And usually what it is it's the person I'm talking to who's saying, I want to make it affordable. It's whatever their definition of affordable is based on what they make, or, So how do with these vague things, I want to be affordable, or, things like that. Any additional thoughts you want to add to that?
Totally. Because sometimes there's this idea of if you have a certain price point, or if you have a higher price point, oh, nobody's going to pay for that. No one's willing to pay for that. And so people ask this question when they're trying to price their offers of if somebody's willing to pay or not. But I think that's just the wrong question, because the truth is there is somebody out there in the world willing to pay at any price point, right? There's somebody out there who's only willing to pay $30 a session. There's someone else out there paying multiple $1,000s. Like, I've worked with a business coach before. She's mentioned that she paid $90,000 for a 12-week program, and that blew my mind. I was like, there is someone in the world paying $90,000 for a 12-week program, right? So there is someone out there willing to pay an amount. So the question is not if someone's willing to pay it. The question is who. And is that person your ideal client, your best client? Do you want to work with the person who is only willing to have $30 of skin in the game? The person who $30 is really expensive for. That's a certain kind of person. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just a certain kind of person who that's their financial threshold versus someone who's willing to put $300 of skin in the game versus $3,000 of skin in the game. The question is, who's really going to get the best results from your work, and what's the price point that's in alignment for them?
For sure. It's like saying, do you want to be a Walmart or do you want to be a Whole Foods? Both businesses have been successful, but one is more expensive than the other, right? So great point. Now that you brought up abundance mindset earlier in this interview, and we've talked about how you can start shifting there, but I'd love for you to just kind of define, like, what does abundance mindset mean to you? And we'll start there.
Yes. And I think this is an important distinction that not everybody talks about, because a lot of people will try to cultivate an abundance mindset. And that often means saying a bunch of affirmations, thinking a bunch of good things about money, or staying positive. But I think the first step to actually developing an abundance mindset is clearing out the seeds of scarcity that's already there. The analogy that I like to give to describe this is, imagine that you wanted to plant a flourishing vegetable garden, and you went out to your yard and you took a bunch of vegetable seeds and you just started chucking them at your lawn. The likelihood that those seeds are going to take root is very slim. And that's kind of what just starting to do a bunch of positive affirmations does. It could be effective. You might get a carrot or two out of the deal, but the likelihood that you're just suddenly going to have a flourishing garden is not that high, versus pulling out the weeds that are already there, recognizing what's your current mindset and beliefs around money, and really tilling that soil so that you have a very fertile foundation to start from. So that's the first step, is actually recognizing the current seeds of scarcity and starting to unwind these patterns and these mindsets and these beliefs. And then from there, now that you have this fertile soil, that's when you plant these new abundance-based seeds. And to me, abundance is actually recognizing the truth of abundance that just is present. And so how I like to describe this is, nature is abundant. Nature is the very example of abundance. And we kind of forget this when we're living over here in human land, where we think that everything is limited. Life is a pie. There's only so many slices. When that pie runs out, then it's gone. And therefore I need to fight and compete and be worried about getting my share. But the reality is that we live on planet Earth, which is based on nature. We are humans. We come from nature. We are nature. And nature is abundant. Some examples of this is, if you've ever made sourdough bread, if you've ever brewed kombucha, if you've ever had a compost pile. For example, when you make kombucha, it's like a living organism, it's like a living bacteria, and you make one batch of kombucha, you know what happens? The bacteria doubles. Now you have 2 of those, and you could make 2 batches of kombucha, and then it doubles again. Then you could make 4 batches of kombucha. Same thing with bread and sourdough bread. Your starter, the yeast, just keeps going and keeps growing. And it's almost like, oh my gosh, how do I even make one thing without just starting a factory of it? Same with beekeepers. They have one hive of bees. That beehive grows and splits into 2 beehives. And then you can capture that and then have 2 beehives. And that's just the way nature is. Anytime you have one tomato, that tomato is full of seeds that leads to infinite future potential tomato plants. And so I think one of the first steps to developing an abundant mindset is grounding it into the reality of that we live in nature, and nature is just a constant flow. It is an ebb and flow. It's not mine and yours. It's just always happening and evolving. Just like how we are constantly taking in an abundance of oxygen. If we ever said, like, I'm not worthy of receiving the oxygen, I'm going to stop taking in the oxygen so that other people who are suffocating can start receiving the oxygen. Like, that doesn't really serve anybody, because it's not just like there's an infinite amount of oxygen in the world. We breathe it in, and then when we breathe it out, our carbon dioxide is the fuel for the trees. Right? So we're actually part of the cycle. So when you start to recognize the cycle, and that your input and your output is actually part of the harmony, part of the flow that fuels everything, it fuels our entire world. Like, that is truly the mindset of abundance on a foundational level.
Yes, I love that. And if they want to go on a deeper level and learn about how they can shift their money mindset and attract more abundance, where can they find you and connect with you?
Absolutely. So I have a free quiz which will help you discover your money mindset type. This is super fun, and you're going to gain so much information about your current money mindset and how you can specifically shift it to come into a mindset of abundance. So you can discover your money mindset type on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz. And if you want to connect more with me, you can also connect with me on Instagram at thebizhippie, where I share everything else that I do there as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.